It's Wednesday, February 22nd. This used to be Washington's birthday, a day that we had off from school. I always considered that February and November were great months because there were many holidays in those months. In February we had Lincoln's birthday, and we had Washington's birthday. And in November we had Election Day, and Armistice Day, and Thanksgiving. Those were good months when you went to school in those days. But I don't want to talk about that, about the issues of February and the issues of creating the President's Week and stuff like that. Let's talk about Putin's angry State of the Union address that he gave to his nation. And he blamed the West and the Ukraine for the war that he ordered a year ago. I don't know on what grounds he said that they had to have this war. He said this was a very difficult time for us. It's a watershed moment for our country, a time of cardinal and irreversible changes around the world, and the most important historic event for our country and our people, where each of us bears a colossal responsibility. What is he talking about? Is he talking about that his people are threatened by Ukraine? Or is he talking about the fact that Ukraine wanted to join NATO? And that's why he decided to go to war. Now, this is no special military operation. This is a war. And he claims that the Western nations are trying to distract the Russian people's attention. They just use the principles of democracy and freedom to defend the United States and all of the free countries in the world, their totalitarian values, and they try to distract people's attention from the corruption scandals and the economic social problems. Is he intimating that Russia has no problems? That the West is corrupt and totalitarian? And is he expecting the Russian people to believe that? And unfortunately, large percentages of them do, based upon the feedback that I heard. So the problem, he's saying, is that this special military operation is the responsibility of the West and the Ukrainian elite. And that's because the Ukrainian elite and the Ukrainian government do not serve the national interest. They serve the interest of third-party countries, which are using the Ukraine as a military base to fight Russia. Now, when did Ukraine fight Russia? When did this war start? Who started it? Was it the Ukraine that built up the forces on the edge of Russia, getting ready to attack them, and then Russia sent 200,000 troops to the border to defend itself? Defend against what? The population of Ukraine is 1/5 of the population of Russia. Maybe even less than 1/5. Where does he have the nerve, the balls, to talk this way to the Russian people? I guess he can, because communication from the outside world into Russia is stifled. They don't have access to the internet like we do. So he's saying this is a natural response. I had to respond this way against the evil forces of Ukraine and the West. And we all know he was pissed off because Ukraine wanted to join NATO. And that was his reason. And now he has to make excuses because he has bungled this war. Something that he said was a special military operation and was going to be over in a couple of weeks. Well, in 2 or 3 days, it's 1 year into this war. And while Russian property hasn't been damaged to the extent that I would have liked to see, mainly because the Ukrainian military didn't have the weapons to drive way into Russia, and maybe the Ukrainians don't want to kill any Russian people, because that might lead to a nuclear war now, which leads us to the point that Putin also in his speech said he's getting out of the New START treaty, Strategic Offensive Arms Treaty. And the nations that participate in this treaty have certain rules and regulations about the way that they are going to maintain their nuclear arsenals. And it limits In fact, it almost eliminates the testing of new nuclear weapons. Now, the New START Treaty was signed in Prague in 2010. It came into force the following year and was extended in 2021 for 5 more years after President Biden took office. I don't know if Trump had anything to do with this treaty in his administration. But anyhow, this treaty caps the number of strategic nuclear warheads that the United States and Russia can deploy, and the deployment of land and submarine-based missiles and bombers to deliver them. So it puts a cap on all of the nuclear and related weapons arsenal that Russia and the United States have at their disposal. So if Putin, leaves the New START Treaty, then that opens up a whole new Pandora's box of problems for the rest of the world, because now the limits on his arsenal have been relieved. So his arsenal can grow as much as he wants it to. And given the fact that he's got himself into this mess in Ukraine, and he hasn't won quickly, he may turn to rebuilding an arsenal and being prepared to fight everybody that gets in his way. So who knows what leaving this important treaty actually means and what Putin is really thinking. Because Putin and Russia have the largest stockpile of nuclear weapons in the world, close to 6,000 warheads. Now that's according to experts. I don't know if anybody's been in there recently and counted it. But together the U.S. and Russia hold about 90% of the world's nuclear weapons, nuclear warheads. That's enough to destroy the planet plenty of times, more than 10 times, more than 20 times over. This planet would be destroyed if the U.S. and Russia got into a nuclear conflict. So I expect that cooler heads will prevail. But don't be surprised if Russia, in this entire situation, uses the mere fact that they have this nuclear weapon as blackmail to keep the forces of good stopping the insanity of Russia. So it was a long, tiring speech that Putin gave, and unfortunately many people believe. So I'll leave you with that this morning. Have a great day.